Now we've got some backlit areas back there that might be worth cheating up a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. We're in a hurry here because the light's moving on us. We're going to cheat this away.
There you go.
To 13.2.
That's better.
All right. And we're standing very much in the shadows under here of the low reading. I think, Phil, it would probably be good.
Well, now what you're talking about are the shadows up there.
Uh-huh.
So the meter should be pointed down toward the camera. If you were up there with the meter, it would be pointed down toward the camera.
Like so.
Right.
All right. The shadows above us are important, so Phil is, we have 9.3. So 13.2, about a 9 SBR feels logical given the high values we have back here.
Right.
And that very bright stripe on the middle.
You want good detail in this stuff up here, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right.
So if we had, as we cheat away from it, it tends to bring it up.
Right.
Okay, so we'll go with this. We don't need to close down much on this lens. I'm going to suggest f20, maybe 16. Go to 22.
Please.
It's going to give us 1.79 seconds. It's going to blur the water, and that's good. How about f32 for 3 seconds?
Okay.
I like blurred water.
Okay.
So we're going to set for time. Time exposure or bulb would have worked at f32. Okay, we're good to go. Make sure we're closed. Yes. And we will use the timer feature. Here we go. 1, 2, open. 3, 2, 1, 0. All right. And these vertical lines are creating a very interesting pattern, light aside, and the light itself is interesting. We're going to have some real challenges holding the texture and the detail in this sheeting, and yet we standing here, we can clearly see texture and detail in the very high values. So to hold all of those, to be absolutely sure we're holding them within our subject range here, we're going to take the incident reading looking right at the sun, right at the sun, which is right over our heads here. Take it like so, and we see an EV of 14.1, which is just about at this time of day what we would ordinarily get outside. We haven't any real deep shadows. The deepest values we're going to have are going to be in the struts across the top here, and to be sure we capture those, we're going to just reverse the meter and look the other way toward the camera, as far away from the sun as we can get, and take a reading. Now some of these feeder tubes are going to print deep, but I think we'll hold that nicely by having aimed the meter this way. So
in simplest form, what you've done here is take one reading toward the light and one reading away from the light and shoot.
yes,
I mean, it's
and
not much more complicated than that.
and then nailed down both ends of the range that exists up here in this image, right? So everything is going to be recorded somewhere on our negative. I'm going to shoot this on 100 TMX.
Go beyond that?
That's as far as I can go with this. Let me take a look. F45, and well, actually I can get out a little bit past it. Let's take a look to see if the aperture is still going down. It is.
Yeah,
Phil, I don't know what that would be, but it's probably, if I space it out about another stop, maybe F64. This is F45. And
yeah, I think that's probably close to 64.
why don't we give it a go?
Give it a whirl. You can't have too much depth of field.
Not in this one. We'll have a It's calling for F64 and a half for 1.79 seconds. So I'll just give just a skosh. And let's just make sure our shutter is set for a timed exposure. We are. I'm going to open and close it. We're good. Okay. All right. The countdown will actually be longer than the exposure in this case. So here we go. 1, 2, go. Go. All right. That was about 1.79 seconds. Here it is. All right. What we have found here in front of me in this composition is a tool bench full of period tools. And clearly the challenge, we're inside where the light level is extremely low. The challenge here is going to be dealing with a very long scale subject. So I've chosen to use Acros film, 100 speed Acros film. We're going to develop it in DI13, which is a developer that with that film can handle, or we at least hope can handle, this long scale subject. So that we're sure that we're set on a film speed of ISO 100 and that we're reading EVs and ambient light, and there we are. So the first challenge, Phil, is going to be the high reading. I think there are a couple of ways we can go with this. One of which is I'm within easy reach of the door. I can get out there quite easily. That's one way to go. The other would be to try to read the light coming in at us.
Or read the light coming through the window here.
Coming through the window.
This window.
And
it's the same sunshine that you'd see outside if you were out.
Okay. And
try it.
Let's see what we get.
Take a reading here and again outside and see if they compare.
All right, and we'll
It's going to be pointing toward the camera.
we're going to point at the camera, which is in this general direction, and I think
Point it in the direction the camera would be if you were on. There you go.
how's that?
That's better.
All right, and I think we're in full light. Can you see it from that side? All right. And we're getting what is becoming a familiar afternoon reading of about 14.1. I just walked outside and obtained a reading of 14.4. I'm going to take one more look in full light over here, because we're very close within.
Your shadow is mulligan there. Drop it down just a little.
How's that?
There you go.
We got to be really careful with shadows on that dome. I'm getting 14.1 inside, 14.4 out. How about I split the difference?
Well, the reason it's different is because half of the cell is being shielded by this interior. Where outside you have a lot of bounce light from the ground and the trees and so on.
Now, which of those would be the more realistic
I
setting?
take this one by the window probably.
Okay. Given the combination of interior conditions here on, all right. I've already set the early settings into Expo Dev here. The film has been selected. So we're going to enter 14.1 for the high reading.
Okay.
And that's practically a full daylight reading, obviously. And now inside. And this will establish the exposure end of the scale, the low end of the scale. And by far the one that to me is going to be very critical in this scene. Once again, I'm going to use my cheater card, my little black and white card, and move into the scene here and into shadow. And put this card in front of some objects.
You're shading the card there with your body.
Thank you, thank you. There we go. This card depicts what would be textured black if there were textured black in this picture, and there is some in the picture. These crevices in the boxes behind me should have some texture in my image, and so I'm going to try to see. This looks very, very close to me, cheated away from the light to some extent. So I think I'm going to take the reading here, cheated away. I'm getting 8.4.
Getting a lot of bounce from the floor there, Bill. Try it against the wall behind the bench.
All right. Good point. If you look down here, we've got a very strong light on the floor, so some reflection. We'll come back. We're lucky that we can kind of walk into these spaces. There's nothing to keep us from doing that.
Doesn't have to be down very far, actually. Just
If we watch the card, we can see it's very.
it looks fine right there.
Now, if you look at the window behind, the door, we get a lighter gray up here. That looks about right compared to the card. Maybe about in here. Ah, now we're even lower. That reflection has changed. We now have a 6.6, so a little over a stop difference, almost 2 when we go back. So we're going to use 6.6 on the low end of the scale here. It is so dark in here, it's almost hard to see this screen. And Phil, we've got the current metering isn't going to handle it. Perhaps if we choose a longer exposure scale to see if we can, I'm using Kodak Fine Art and Acros 100 in DI13.
Oh, can't do it, eh?
Can't quite get there. Too long. Let's see if
ExpoDev tells Bill that this subject range is too great for Acros in DI13, so he'll change to 100 T max.
Don't have any TMX with you.
I have 100 T max.
Get it.
Shall we give that a
Try
go?
that with the DI13.
All right. And 100 T max for an exposure scale of 1.10. And let's go back up to 14.1. All right, it looks like the working data is giving us enough to make an exposure here. 12.5 stops,
That's better.
which feels like it's in the range. Average D of 3.31. All right.
That's better.
Better. Good. Thank you. All right. And we're focused in this particular case on an important feature in the tools, and we want the depth of field to most definitely extend in front of that little cabinet and keep all the tools in focus, and we'll sacrifice possibly depth of field in the far distance when we step down all the way. I'm going to take this one to F45.
Okay.
And let's put that in ExpoDev and see what sort of an exposure it suggests. A long one, actually, 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Wow.
Okay.
That's going to blur some of the background, but I don't think that'll be harmful
That won't matter.
at all because the subject is up here.
There's a lot of flare in this window.
Think we ought to try the 5 minute and 32?
Sure.
All right.
What it says.
All right.
That's good.
Yeah.